I never believed someone could just disappear into the woods, until I watched it almost happen. We'd done this trip 5 years in a row, every March, me, Ryan, and the twins, Kyle and Jesse. Spring camp in the Pike National Forest. We liked the cold, the privacy, the way the trees still held patches of snow like forgotten memories. This year felt different from the start. The snow hadn't fully melted, even though the calendar said it should have. Long veins of white still ran across the forest floor like cracks in old glass. The air smelled of thawing earth and pine, but there was something else in it too. Something dry. Hollow. We parked deep, miles off the main highway, up past the second forest road that most people avoided. It was our spot. High altitude, no phone service, and a perfect clearing near an old fire watch trail. That first day was nothing strange. We pitched tents, split firewood, drank cheap whiskey from plastic flasks, and bitched about jobs and girlfriends like we were still 20. But even then, I felt it, the quiet. Not silence. Silence is peace. Silence is stillness. This was the kind of quiet where you start to wonder if the forest is holding its breath. By sunset, even Ryan had stopped joking. We all noticed how fast the light dropped, how the temperature sank like a rock. The snow, which had looked thin and patchy, suddenly felt deeper. Colder. That night, the wind didn't blow. Not once. It wasn't until Kyle asked, "Do you guys feel like we're being watched?" that it really hit me. The fire cracked. No one laughed. We all looked past the firelight, past the tents, into the dark where the trees stood like sentinels. Ryan tried to brush it off, just a mountain lion or something. But he didn't believe it. You could see it in his jaw, the way it clenched like he was holding back something worse. I didn't sleep much that night. It wasn't the cold, though it got down to the 20s. It wasn't the hard ground or Kyle's snoring. It was the footsteps. Soft, deliberate steps outside my tent. Around 2 a.m. They didn't crunch snow. They didn't run. They walked. One step. Pause. Another step. Like someone circling. I lay frozen in my sleeping bag, heart punching my ribs, too afraid to unzip the tent or even breathe too loud. I thought about calling out. I didn't. It lasted maybe a minute. Maybe 5. I don't know. But when it stopped, I swear I felt something lean in. Just outside the thin fabric. Close enough to hear if I exhaled. And then, nothing. Morning came with frost. Ryan looked pale. Kyle said he dreamed someone was watching from the trees. Jesse laughed it off, but he was smoking by 7 a.m. That told me more than his words ever could. None of us mentioned the steps. But we all knew. Block 1, Part 2. There was one more set of tracks than there should have been. We found them the next morning. Tracks. We were breaking down the firewood stack near the tree line when Kyle stopped dead mid-swing, axe still resting on his shoulder. He was staring at the snow just behind the tents. I followed his gaze and felt my stomach go tight. 5 sets of footprints. Ours? Sure, me, Ryan, the twins, back and forth from the tents to the fire, out to the woods for firewood or to piss. But this 5th set was different. It didn't come from anywhere. It didn't lead anywhere. Just a short trail of clean, well-defined prints, boots, smaller than mine, maybe a size 8, starting 10 feet from Kyle's tent and ending behind Jesse's. No drag marks, no scuffing. The snow there was undisturbed except for those sharp, narrow impressions, as if whoever made them had simply stepped into the forest, and vanished. We didn't speak right away. No jokes this time. Ryan broke the silence. Could be an old trail. Kyle shook his head. That snow's fresh. Came down 2 nights ago. We would have seen those yesterday. Jesse walked the short line of tracks, then turned back. There's no entry point. No exit. Like he stopped himself, but we all heard what he wasn't saying. Like they appeared out of nowhere. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone came through when we were sleeping. Hiker, hunter, whatever. In the middle of the night. Kyle's voice was tight. Through 5 miles of snow-covered forest with no light and no sound. No one answered. We moved on. We told ourselves it was nothing, but the mood had shifted. The forest felt tighter somehow, the trees closer. Even the sky looked grayer, like the weather was second-guessing itself. Later that day, we tried to hike up to the old Fire Watch trail, just to get higher ground, maybe cell signal. It was a short climb, an hour at most. We'd done it every year. But something was different this time. The trail looked wrong. Not overgrown, not blocked. Just unfamiliar. Turned in the wrong places. Bent back on itself like it didn't want to let us leave. At one point, Jesse swore he saw our own footprints ahead of us. Did we circle back? He asked. But we hadn't. I'd been watching the compass. We were going straight. Still, there were our boot marks. Same pattern, same spacing. As if we'd already been there. Or something else had, mimicking our path. We turned back. That night, we doubled the firewood stack. No one drank. Kyle kept his hatchet beside his sleeping bag. Ryan slept with a flashlight in his hand. I didn't even try to close my eyes. Because around 3:20 a.m., the footsteps came back. Same rhythm. Same deliberate pace. This time, 2 sets. One circling. One standing still. Right outside my tent. I didn't move. Didn't blink. And then, a low, slow inhale. Right at the back of my neck. From outside the canvas. I wanted to scream. I wanted to unzip and lunge out swinging. But something in me knew, I shouldn't see what was out there. So I waited. And after a minute that felt like an hour. They walked away. We woke to find Jesse's boots gone. Not misplaced. Not kicked off near the fire pit. Gone. He'd left them just outside his tent like always, laces loosened, socks tucked inside, lined up neatly. Now there was only undisturbed snow. No drag marks. No footprints. Just an empty indent where the boots had been. He thought we were screwing with him at first. Very funny, assholes, he muttered, hopping barefoot over the snow, his breath ragged. Give them back. None of us spoke. I think he realized it then. The way Ryan was staring at the snowbank behind the tent, or the way Kyle wouldn't even look in our direction. We weren't messing with him. No one had touched those boots. They'd just disappeared. We all started checking our own gear. Our backpacks, our tents. Nothing else was missing. But still, it felt like something had been taken. A message left in negative space. Ryan finally said what we were all thinking. This is bad, right? Yeah, I said. It's bad. The rest of the morning passed in a slow, hollow kind of silence. We didn't go hiking. We didn't do much at all. Jesse fashioned makeshift foot wraps from some thermal shirts. His eyes were bloodshot, and he kept rubbing his arms like he couldn't get warm. Around noon, Kyle walked off into the woods. He said he needed to clear his head. After 30 minutes, we started calling his name. After an hour, we started yelling. We found him 90 minutes later, standing behind a thick stand of pines, facing a rock wall like he was listening to it. Not moving. Not speaking. His hat was gone. So were his gloves. Dude, Ryan said, shaking his shoulder, what the hell are you doing? Kyle blinked like he was waking up. Looked at us, confused. I thought I heard someone, he said. There's no one out here. He didn't argue. Just looked back at the rock wall, frowning. Sounded like singing. The trail back to camp felt longer. The air was heavier. Ryan kept glancing over his shoulder, like something was following. Jesse barely spoke. When we got back, the fire was out. None of us remembered letting it die. We spent that night closer to each other. Tents moved in tight to the fire, our sleeping bags dragged close to the center. No one wanted to be alone. It was only the second night, but it felt like we'd been out there a week. That was the night the whistling started. Faint at first. From deep in the trees. 3 notes. Rising. Pausing. Then again. And again. None of us moved. It wasn't random. It wasn't wind. It was a tune. Played slow. Patient. Like whoever, or whatever, was out there wanted us to know it could wait. We sat around the fire, not speaking, letting the flames snap and spit while that slow, whistling tune floated just beyond the tree line. None of us wanted to be the one to ask the question, but Jesse finally did. You guys hear that too, right? We nodded. It had shifted now, closer. But not louder. Like the source had moved 10 feet forward, then stopped. Holding position. We took turns scanning the woods with our flashlights. The beams hit nothing but white bark and falling snowflakes, but that only made it worse. The more we didn't see, the more our minds filled the blanks with something worse. Ryan finally snapped. He stood up, hand clenched tight around the flashlight, and shouted into the dark. Hey! You're not funny, asshole. We're armed, you get that? The whistle stopped. Silence rolled back in like a cold tide. Then a whisper. Not a voice. Not language. Just the unmistakable texture of breath in the trees. Like someone was standing just out of reach, whispering behind their teeth. You couldn't hear words, you could only feel them. Jesse dropped his stick. Kyle started rocking slightly, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the dark. We need to leave, he said. Tonight. No way, Ryan said. We're not hiking 5 miles through snow in the dark. We wait for first light. Something's out there, man, Kyle hissed. Something that doesn't want us here. And that was the thing none of us wanted to admit. Whatever was watching us, it wasn't just there. It was aware. That night, I kept my knife unsheathed beside my bag. No one slept. Every branch crack felt like it was inside my ear. At one point, around 4 a.m., I saw something move between the trees, just a flicker of white on white, like a shape gliding where no path was. No noise. No crunch. Just presence. And then, just before dawn, a sound that didn't belong. Laughter. A child's laugh. Clear. Light. Right behind my tent. I froze. Every nerve in my body told me not to move. It only lasted a second, 2 notes of a giggle, but it hit like a hammer to the gut. When morning came, Jesse was gone. Just gone. His sleeping bag still there, half-zipped. His flashlight. Dead, still clutched in his frozen hand. But no Jesse. Tracks led away from camp. But not human ones. They were deep. Spaced too far apart for walking. No toe marks. Just long impressions, dragging lines between them. Like someone was being pulled. We followed them for 20 minutes before the tracks just stopped. No sign of Jesse. No sign of struggle. Just forest. Snow. And that creeping quiet again. The kind that hums behind your ears when the world around you is holding a secret. We hiked back to camp in silence. No one said Jesse's name. It felt wrong. Like if we said it out loud, it would confirm something we weren't ready to accept. That he wasn't just missing. He was gone. Ryan kept looking behind us, his jaw tight, his face gray like stone. Kyle had stopped talking entirely. He walked with his arms tight to his body, his eyes distant. Like he was listening to something we couldn't hear. The fire was dead when we returned, though we'd left it burning. And near the edge of camp, pressed into the snow, were 2 long handprints. Not boot prints. Not paws. Hands. They were too large to be Kyle's, and too long. The fingers were unnaturally thin, almost double-jointed in how they curved. And the depth, whatever made them, was heavy. They led nowhere. Just 2 palms, pressed into the snow, as if something had crouched there and watched. Ryan threw up behind his tent. That was when I knew we weren't dealing with a person. No human moves without leaving tracks. No human sits like that. I tried to radio for help using the emergency transceiver we kept for backcountry trips. Static. Not even background hiss. Just void. Kyle started talking to himself around noon. Quiet muttering under his breath, like he was repeating something over and over. When I leaned in, I could barely make it out. It wants him. It wants him back. It wants him back. Who, Kyle? I asked, though I knew. He didn't answer. We tried to pack. But the woods shifted. I know how that sounds. We tried to follow our GPS route out, but the paths weren't right. Trees stood where they hadn't before. Familiar landmarks looked wrong, mirrored. Like we were walking in a forest pretending to be our forest. Even the sky looked strange, brighter in the wrong direction, the sun behind the clouds but not where it should be. I marked the tree with my knife. A long X across the bark. We walked for an hour. Past the same tree. Same cut. Same angle. We were looping. Ryan snapped. He started screaming Jesse's name, kicking at trees, throwing rocks into the brush. Kyle and I just stood there, helpless. Hopeless. That was when we heard it again. The laughter. Not close this time. But all around us. And behind it, under it, was something else. A voice. A low, rasping mimicry of Jesse's voice. Guys. I'm here. It came from the left. Then the right. Then above. Ryan bolted. I tried to stop him. Kyle didn't move. We lost him in seconds. I ran after, shouting, crashing through the trees. But there was no sign of him. Just branches swaying like something big had just moved through. Then I saw it. 20 feet away. Still. Tall. Wrong. It stood between 2 pines, not quite touching the ground. Its legs were too long, but not bent. Just stretched. Its face had almost features, like a wax mask held too close to a fire. Melted. Soft. Except for the mouth. Too wide. Grinning. It didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Just stood there, tilting its head slowly as I stared like prey frozen in headlights. And then, it stepped backward. Not turned. Stepped. Backward. And disappeared between the trees. I don't remember how I got back to camp. 1 second I was staring at that thing, feeling like my blood had turned to static. The next, I was stumbling out of the trees, boots crunching the brittle snow, lungs seizing with cold air, and Kyle was there, just standing, looking at the fire like it was some ancient relic he didn't understand. He didn't ask where Ryan was. He didn't have to. The light was going again. Dusk in the woods isn't like dusk anywhere else. It bleeds in from all sides, erasing shape, turning trees into silhouettes, and snow into mirrors. You don't see nightfall. You feel it, a pressure behind the eyes. A whisper in the chest. I tried to speak. My voice cracked in my throat. I saw it, I finally managed. It's not human. Kyle didn't even blink. Just nodded slowly, like he already knew. Then said the first coherent sentence I'd heard from him in hours. It lives in the space between. He didn't explain. He didn't need to. That night was colder than the rest. Not in temperature, in presence. The wind was back, but not natural. It came in pulses. Breaths. And between them, whispering again. Not outside the tent this time. Inside. Soft. Gentle. Just behind my ear. Let go. I sat bolt upright, flashlight swinging wildly. Nothing. Just the wall of the tent, my breath clouding in front of me. I turned to Kyle's side of the tent. Empty. His sleeping bag was zipped open. His boots gone. This time I didn't wait. I tore through the flap, yelling his name, scanning the woods. But there were no tracks. Only one thing in the snow, carved with a finger, shallow and shaking. I traded my voice for silence. I couldn't think. My head felt packed with fog. I tried to scream, but my throat locked. No tears. No rage. Just cold acceptance. Like the forest was folding around me and there was no way out. But then I remembered the flare. Emergency protocol. I fumbled through my pack, hands numb, grabbed it with shaking fingers, and fired. Red light tore into the sky, casting the trees in blood. And in that red, I saw them. Dozens of them. Figures. Tall. Still. All watching. Standing just past the firelight. Their faces blank, waxy. Some broken. Some too long. All almost human. And one of them wore Jesse's jacket. Not moving. Just standing. As if waiting for me to understand. I collapsed next to the fire, flare still glowing in my hand, tears finally sliding down my cheeks. I don't know how long I sat there. Eventually, the figures faded back into the trees. But not before one of them, the first one, the grinning one, lifted a hand. And waved. Morning never came. Not really. The sun tried to rise, but the light it brought was colorless, like someone drained the world of contrast. The snow looked gray, the sky a dull ash. My watch said 7:42 a.m., but it could have been midnight. It didn't matter anymore. There was no sound in the forest. No birds. No wind. No life. Just me. And that unbearable quiet. I tried to walk. North, I thought. Or maybe west. I wasn't thinking clearly, but I moved. Every few steps I marked a tree with my knife, but even that felt meaningless. I was just carving panic into bark. Trying to leave fingerprints in a place that didn't want to remember me. After maybe an hour, I found the fire tower. We'd passed it every year. A rusted old skeleton of wood and wire that had long since stopped being safe to climb. But this time, something had changed. There was light inside. A faint flicker. Like candlelight. I didn't want to go closer. I didn't want to know what was in there. But my legs betrayed me, carrying me forward one slow step at a time, crunching snow that no longer melted beneath my feet. Inside, the tower was wrong. Not just decayed, but occupied. The floor was covered in bones. Small ones. Dozens. Arranged in spirals, patterns, language. And above them, pinned to the wooden slats of the far wall, was a jacket. Ryan's. It was torn. Stained. Stuffed inside the left pocket, neatly folded, was a page from his journal. I unfolded it with shaking hands. It read, You were right. It wasn't watching us. We were walking into it. There's no forest. Just this. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just stood there, letting the candle flicker against the old glass, and for a second, just one terrible second, I understood. We'd never left the first night. The loop hadn't started after Jesse disappeared. It had always been. We'd camped inside something's territory. A place that wasn't a place. A shape with no edges. A hunger-wearing forest skin. And we'd fed it. With fear. With memory. With each step deeper into nothing. I turned to leave, but the doorway was gone. Just wall. Wood. Nails. No exit. That's when I heard it again. That same slow whistle. But now it was inside my skull. The candle blew out. Not with a gust, there was no air in that tower anymore. Just thick, pressing stillness. Like the inside of a sealed box buried too deep. I stared at the place where the door used to be, and it hit me. There were no exits. There never had been. Not just in the tower. In the forest. Whatever this thing was, it didn't need walls or locks. It bent space the way fire bends paper. It folded reality. And I was just one more crease in the map. I think I lost time after that. There are blank spots. Things I can't piece together in any logical way. I remember standing at the window, but I don't remember walking there. I remember the trees moving, but the wind was gone. I remember seeing myself. Not a reflection. Not a hallucination. Another me, standing below the tower, looking up. Same jacket. Same torn glove. Same scar on the cheek. He raised a hand. I raised mine. But he didn't copy me. He was ahead of me. Like he knew what I was going to do before I did it. Then he turned. And walked away. I chased after him. I don't know how I got out of the tower, or how far I ran. But the next thing I remember, I was back at the clearing. Our camp. It was still there. Untouched. Tents. Fire pit. Packs. Wood stack. Even Jesse's boots. Like we'd never set foot in it. Like the last 3 days had never happened. Except. There was only one set of tracks in the snow now. Mine. I should have run. But I didn't. Because there, beside the fire pit, carved into the snow as carefully as a letter pressed into wet cement, was a sentence. My sentence. It will let you leave, but not alone. And suddenly I understood the shape of the trap. It never wanted to keep all of us. Not really. It needed one of us to get out. To carry it. Like a seed under the tongue. Like a virus in the eyes. I walked. Numb. Past the tents. Past the trees. Until the world stopped feeling like a maze and started feeling like a memory. Somewhere along the way, my phone lit up. Signal bars. Just one. Enough. I called for help. Search and rescue found me 2 hours later, wandering along a service road, frostbitten and raving. They said I was the only registered camper in that area. Said there were no signs of anyone else. No tents. No gear. No footprints but mine. They kept me for observation at the hospital for 3 days. I told them what happened, but not everything. I left out the parts with the voices. The mirror version of me. The thing with the melted face. You learn pretty quickly what you can and can't say if you don't want to be sedated. The official report listed me as a solo camper who got lost during unstable weather. Exposure. Dehydration. Minor frostbite on 3 toes. Nothing permanent. No one came looking for Jesse. Or Kyle. Or Ryan. There were no missing person reports. No emergency contacts. I even hired a private investigator 2 months later, paid out of pocket, told him I thought some friends had gone off-grid. He found nothing. No digital trail. No tax records. No relatives. No birth certificates. As if they'd never existed. But I remember them. I remember Jesse's laugh when the fire popped too loud. I remember Kyle's half-worn Denver Broncos hat. I remember Ryan yelling into the dark, pretending to be braver than he was. I remember. That's the worst part. Because it means it worked. The forest didn't just take them. It erased them. All except for me. Like I was chosen to hold the record. To bear the scar. And some nights, when I'm too tired to think straight, I almost convince myself it didn't happen. That it was just trauma, isolation, a trick of the freezing mind. But then, I hear it again. That same 3-note whistle. Low. Deliberate. Coming from the tree line behind my apartment. And when I look out the window, there's always something just beyond the streetlight. Not moving. Not close. Just watching. I moved 3 times in the past year. Different cities. Different states. I told myself I was chasing jobs, opportunities, fresh starts. But really, I was running from something I couldn't name without sounding insane. Every time I unpacked, I promised, this will be the last place. This time, it won't find me. But it's not about place. It never was. Because it didn't come from the forest. The forest was just a door. And whatever was waiting behind it, I let it in. Little signs, at first. Flickering lights. My phone alarm going off at 3:20 a.m., the exact time I heard that whisper the second night in the tent. Always 3:20. Never set by me. Then it got bolder. Whispers through the static when I made a call. Footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment when I lived alone in a secured building. My reflection smiling a second longer than I did. Once, I left the TV on in the background, some old sitcom rerun, and heard, buried under the laugh track, 3 soft notes. Whistled. Just once. I turned the TV off. But the sound kept going. I sleep with the lights on now. Haven't camped since. Sometimes I see people on the street and wonder if they've been where I was. Their eyes linger too long. Their walk doesn't match their shadow. Their smiles curve just a little too far. I wonder how many of us made it out. I wonder how many of us are carrying pieces of it, like smuggled bones under our skin. Here's the part one never tell anyone. I still hear their voices. Not echoes. Not memories. Voices. Jesse, in my dream, saying, "You left us." Ryan whispering, "It chose you." And Kyle. Kyle doesn't speak. He just stares. Mouth open. Like he's waiting for me to understand something terrible. Some mornings, I wake up with pine needles in my bed. Snow melt on the window, though it hasn't snowed in weeks. The faint smell of burned cedar in my clothes. One day I'll go back. I know that. Not to rescue anyone. That chance is long gone. But because it wants me to. Because whatever it is, it's patient. And when it calls again, it won't need to whisper. It'll speak through me. In my voice. To someone else, alone in the woods. And the story will begin again.